Welcome back to another episode of Season 5 of the RAG podcast. As you guys know by now, this is the #1 podcast across the recruitment sector globally. And we've always been on a mission to help recruitment agencies grow by interviewing founders and telling their stories of success from startup all the way to scale up and exit. Well, this season we're a little bit different. How do you, as a recruitment leader and founder, maintain your family and friendships whilst being the best person at work? How do you stay physically fit mentally and emotionally? And how do you find time for yourself in the madness? How do you find time for self-interest, for hobbies, and self-improvement? Well, to help you with this, I'm going to be interviewing someone every single week that can demonstrate experience in one or more of these areas. So I'm going to talk to recruitment founders and also some experts from outside the industry who can deep dive into things like relationships and health and well-being. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy today's show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast. On today's episode, I'm really looking forward to sharing this story. Now, Anthony Webster is my guest today. Anthony is my old colleague. We worked together for 5 years at Venquis in London. We were really close. He was like my best friend in the office. We actually planned to launch Hoxo together. He was for about 2 years part of the journey with myself and my business partner, Amar. And he decided not to join us. He said it wasn't the right time for him. And he soon moved and joined a company called DVF Recruitment, which he is now the managing director of. It was a startup that is part of the bigger Career Legal group. There's like 13 in DVF, 50 across Career Legal. Anthony's MD and he's board member across the bigger group. And he's done phenomenally well. And I wanted to obviously tell his story about that. But the reason he didn't join us was because he had a bigger mission. He had something he needed to achieve. And that was that he needed to come out as gay. Anthony, who's a year older, so he must be 36 now and almost 37, lived for a very, very long time, his whole 20s and into his early 30s, basically living a lie, basically telling people that he was straight and hiding the fact that he was gay and that he had a boyfriend for a long time. And at the point where we were about to launch a recruitment company together, he realized that actually coming out was a bigger priority than starting a business. And so he moved, he found a safe space, he came out, which was news to me. I'll be honest, I didn't expect it. I wasn't thinking it. I was proud of him and never judged him. But he's now gone on an incredible journey in the last 5 years to open up and become his true self. In Pride Month of June, I felt like this would be an incredible way to raise awareness, but also tell my friend's story and how I'm just genuinely so proud of him. So I'm very confident that for anyone listening, you're gonna love this story. You're gonna buy into Anthony, but also you're gonna understand how hard it is for certain people to be themselves in an industry that's male dominated, is very macho, and is not always open to change and inclusion. Anthony dispels a lot of myths and gives some really cool practical advice too. So, without further ado, Anthony, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. It's a bit weird, really, having you on.
Wow.
It's a bit weird. When did I last see you? About two years ago, maybe?
Yeah, probably just before COVID. We caught up. Obviously, regular catch-ups, which is good, but
not enough, though. Not enough.
No, I know. You've left me. You've gone back to up north now.
I'm a northerner, mate. I'm no longer a southerner. We used to live around the corner. So for those of you, I've mentioned it in the intro. Obviously, we knew each other for a long time. We worked together every day for the best part of 5 years, and we've probably only seen each other a handful of times since, which is a shame. It's the way the world works. But right, so we've got loads to cover. But before we get into it, I've done a basic intro. Yeah. Just for the benefit of anyone who doesn't know you, in your own words, how would you describe your job and who you are right now?
Yeah, of course. So, managing director for DVF Recruitment, we are a specialist business transformation, change, and technology business. Work across industries, but heavily entrenched in the legal, insurance, broader financial services, and do a lot of stuff with legal tech businesses. I am DVF, a part of the Career Legal Group. So Career Legal, long-standing 32-year-old business that I'm a board director for, and help strategically drive both businesses forward. And then kind of third hat, I would say, is co-lead for our diversity and inclusion business. So, what we're doing internally, driving initiatives internally, but also externally, how we partner better with clients. So yeah, pretty busy. DVF are 6 years old. There's 13 of us now. Crazy, wild and wonderful bunch that we've got. But yeah, we've got a great team doing some really interesting stuff. But actually, as a kind of group businesses, we've got 50 in total on how we harmonize the organizations, and we are one business essentially. So yeah, that's a quick snapshot.
Love it. Love it. So for anyone who wants to know if they're interested, I mean, the way we work was me and you were basically counterparts, right? So I managed contract, you managed perm. And we used to go, it was basically just me and you at the beginning.
Early days,
we built out teams and divisions, and I remember it was always good fun. We always did well. We competed, and we also, we'd go to a client. I think if me and you walked into a client meeting, it was pretty powerful, wasn't it? We always came out.
We hopefully never lost, which is
we always came out with what we wanted.
We lost sometimes.
We always came out with what we wanted.
Yeah, definitely. And interesting time. And I mean, Vanquish was great, right? I think the transformation that when we joined, it was quite small. And I think when you blinked kind of 5 years later, it was nearly 50 of us, which is crazy. But yeah, all really valuable experience, which is good.
Yeah. So you've been in recruitment. What year did you get into recruitment? Can you remember?
I like to say around 10 years, but I think the age is probably pushing to nearly 12. But let's stick with 10 years. But probably
more than 10 years. I got into recruitment in 2011. You'd done a few.
Yeah, mine was about end of 2009, I think it was 2009, 2010.
That's like 13, 14.
Let's stick to 12.
So what? Because if I remember your story, were you working like private banking or something? And then
so I left school pretty much 15. So I was an August baby, pretty brazen, good at maths, but didn't want to go to university. Just managed to blag myself. Didn't blag myself. I went down to Lewisham Job Centre and managed to look at apprenticeship on the wall and think I can work in a bank. So quite bolshy and brazenly applied, got through the different panel of interviews, and then literally joined that October at 16, just turned 16 into Peckham Rye branch, Barclays, away we go. So worked in retail quite heavily, met lots of different people, which is probably the best experience I've still had to this day. And then ended up in kind of progressing through to private banking quite quickly. So one of the youngest guys in private banking. And then they shifted a lot of work to Canary Wharf at the time when everything was moving to Canary Wharf. So I took redundancy. I thought I'm going to buy myself a really nice car. Stupidest decision you've ever done. And then ended up kind of falling into recruitment like most people do, 12 years ago, through contacts, relationships that I've had, and kind of built it from there, really.
Wasn't it Tony Kokoza that got your first work?
Yeah, so that's kind of my first, oh God, Tony, what a legend. Kind of where it really started for me. And then, started doing technology recruitment quite locally. It was, Tony that took me on. And
was that in Bromley or something?
That's it, Bromley, Kent way. So I've always been that way. And then, started working with Tony, moved on to another smaller business called Optimum. So doing a lot of technology recruitment to a lot of the big investment banks. And I was quite keen to get back in the city. So I was always missing kind of working in London and getting back in.
You'd have joined Venkus in 2013, I think, because I started in 2012.
Still quite small.
You're about 7 months after me. I think we'd have been about 12 people or something. Maximum.
Yeah, so it was really quite small then. And I think what intrigued me about that, Venkus at the time was, everyone drives technology and new platform systems, and that's what I knew and that's how I learned. But I like the fact was understanding why businesses go through change. What's the need to really change an organization? I think that's why Venkus stood out really, but they needed a bit of help on the perm side. I could see quite clearly that they were struggling. And that's kind of where it started then.
I just remember you came in and you were like, you were just confident. You knew what you were doing, which was good. But you were open to listening. You were open to learning. You were fun. You were energetic, and it was that classic story of a load of young people, early mid-20s that, well, probably mid to late 20s actually. That we all were, trying to make money, having fun, enjoying it. Where did the drive to be successful? Do you think? Where does that come from for you? Where does it? Like childhood or what? Where?
I don't know. So I've obviously my bit of a upbringing's mum's always been a grafter. So I think I've I think I've always got that from her. I mean, she's still to this day, works aggressively, tirelessly. So I think there's always been that hard graft in me to want to be successful and to really try to do it. But I think it's always been, I've not kind of around me looked around and someone in my family that's kind of pinpointed. But I think the natural graft and energy has definitely come from my mum, and I think still to this day does, really. But I think also the real need to want to change, not just my life, but people around me as well. So I think there's always been that need to want to push forward, and I think that's been ingrained in me since I've ever known, to be honest.
What do you think? What do you think made you a good recruiter? Let's talk about consultant level, because you were wicked. Like, you were what?
Yeah.
300 grand a year, easy perm. Like, what? What was it about you that? Because you weren't the most academic. You didn't go.
No, not at all. I think
all day. What was it that made you good, do you think?
Yeah, I think for me as well, I've tried to do things. Anyone I even meet to this day has tried to do things a little bit better. So I will, a lot of this stigma is work crazy hours, and that's part of it. Stay there till quite late and put their work in, and that was never at fault. But I think what I've also tried to do is tactfully look at different ways to get quick wins, strategically look at how you can come from different directions, do what other recruitment businesses aren't doing. And I think a lot of that, combined with obviously the work ethic and the drive, I think really made me kind of stand out. But knowledge, understanding the marketplace, I think always being able to go to a meeting with 4 or 5 people that can do the job and pitch it right at that right time. So I think knowledge, hunger, I think being able to look at things slightly different and come at a completely different angle. And even to this day, right, recruitment's super competitive. But I've got guys on my team that have been doing recruitment 12 months and doing what guys have been doing it for 10 years. And I think it's being able to come to the market, and a lot of it is how you can do things what other people aren't doing, and how you can potentially come to the market in a slightly different angle as well as putting in that drive. But I think a lot of it historically was driven on hours, how much you're on the phone, and it was always that key drive. And still to this day in a lot of organizations. But I think strategically you can be quite creative, and I think you can get a lot of quick wins by being quite creative.
I think you were just like, if I was going to give you my opinion, you were likable. I think you were likable. I think some recruiters are just not memorable enough. They're not. Whereas you were memorable. You meet a client, they weren't forgetting Anthony. Like, you were a big character, right? And you said, if you said you were going to do something, you did it. You did it on time. You were always just consistent. You were consistent. You were always fucking in on time. You never missed anything. Like, I think me and you.
Also, don't mind saying sorry, or if I've made a mistake. I think there's an honesty and integrity behind that. I think, again, it's just sometimes owning. Actually, if you made a mistake, like, I'm sorry, hold your hands up. And I think, where can a client go if you sit there and say, I'm sorry? I mean,
yeah. But I think what me and you both did, though, was we were consistent. I think looking around the office, there was only a few people you could count on every day would be there at the right time and would put the same level of effort in and would hit the numbers every month. Yeah, we were in a manager's dream, an owner's dream, really. We were just consistently knocking on the board, right? Yeah. So today's show is, it's really personal. It's a really interesting topic. So, and it's mad because we worked together for 5 years. And what I want to also share is that you were also part of Hoxo. Originally, the Hoxo plan was me, Amar, and you, right?
Yeah.
I've not even spoken.
A lot of people don't know. Yeah.
No one knows it, right? So Hoxo, I think it was probably a couple of years of talking. Amar's dad died. And then I think me and you and him sat together and we were like, look, let's do this. And then we used to meet regularly. We talked about, you were going to do perm, we were going to do contract, insurance, and then he was doing retail. And you even helped us with the name Hoxo. Do you remember we had Noxon for a while? Then Noxo.
Oh God, there
was all sorts of shit names.
Hoxo cubes.
Oh mate, but we got there, and then so running to the back end of 2016, as I said, we started working together 13. So we've been together like 3-4 years, and then going into 17, January 17, we were quitting. That was the plan. We planned it all year. I remember we met in Crystal Palace, we had a coffee. Plan was set, we're all going to quit for end of Jan. We're all getting a bonus. We're out. And I remember at Christmas, you went a bit quiet. So me and Amber, I think it was just before Christmas, we were like, right, let's all have a beer, chat. And you were like, I can't make it, lads. And me and Amber both just knew. There was guts. There was an instinct that had changed. And then I remember you sent us, I think it was like just before, you sent me like this just long message saying, lads, I'm so sorry, but I can't do this right now. Like it's not the right time. I think you made it, you talked about buying a house, and whatever you said didn't quite feel right. But
there's every other reason but what the
I remember thinking, I'm not going to probe you, because at the end of the day, if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. So that made me and Emma think, fuck, what are we going to do? And look, at first it was carry on. But what actually, I was already thinking about marketing and stuff, which was stuff I was talking about and content. And then that led me to go, well, actually the push to think, well, what else could we do? I actually think, well, your decision impacted my decision, which led to my business.
Definitely.
So it all happens for a reason. But the truth was, not so long after, you not only left the business we worked for, but then you came out as being gay, right?
Yeah.
Which, I'll be honest, I was really quite shocked. Like, we were close. There was a lot of people spoke about it in the office. Is Anthony gay? People mentioned it because you never had a girlfriend in the time we worked.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just never really thought about it. I was like, well, if he is, he is. If he's not, he's not. But I genuinely didn't think it because you did talk about women a bit, and you were quite like, you almost were like you were quite a geezer. You know, you'd almost like tell people to piss off if they were even going to.
I think that's probably been why it's sometimes quite difficult, right? Because, and I think that's probably why for years I have also struggled with it to some degree because I'm a bit of a lad's lad. I've had the same friends since I've been in school, and I think the fear of the acceptance part, but I think the next layer was actually I don't want to come out as gay, and then I kind of turn that life off, and then I've got to go and get a lot of new friends and stuff. And I think over a long period of time, I mean, most of my 20s, probably pretty much all of my 20s, I was covering up who I am as a person, lying to people, bringing, and it was just, a lot of dark time, real dark path at times. And I think
I'd like to go into a kind of two directions with it. First, I want to talk about the story of you actually just like, let's just go back to that moment when you didn't join or you didn't start Hoxo with us. And then we'll go back to the pre-story of what you've been through. Because I think there's kind of two really interesting parts of this. And obviously it's Pride Month. It's really relevant right now. I want people to listen and understand it's okay to be open about who you are. So if we go back let's go back to that time in December. Me and Amar are waiting on you. Like, what's going on? Tell me what went on in your head. What was going on?
I think at that time as well, obviously there was the Hoxo piece, but I think there was also a bit of a point where you take certain things up to a certain degree and you can mask things, but it does come to breaking points. I was drinking heavily. I was doing things I shouldn't be doing to really mask over how I was feeling. And I kind of got to a point where it was unfair to get involved with two key friends, close friends of mine, to also invest into a brand new business when I truly can't be Ant. And it wasn't that I couldn't be Ant around you guys, because actually looking back now, I'm like, why the hell didn't I? It's mental. But I think it comes to a point where you kind of have to sit there and just take stock and say, I just can't get involved with it right now. And I think
at the time, were you living with your partner at the time?
Yeah, so I think, I was living on my own, but obviously I was with a partner, and he would stay over, quite a lot of times.
You've been with him for years, haven't you? Because we all thought he was your best friend.
Years. Yeah, everyone thought he was your.
I'd met him loads. Like he'd come out for drinks, and he's an estate agent, and he's a good lad. And again, like I never thought twice about it. If I'm honest, I thought it was your mate courts. Like so.
Yeah, and I think most people did, right? And I think that's and that.
How many people knew the truth?
Oh, not mine. So I think when I come back to work, I think it was about a year before I told close friends, as Hayley, who I had obviously brought on my journey. She's still with me to this day, which is great. But yeah, a selective close friends. But yeah, I think before it kind of really come to a head, particularly around when I just had to kind of take stock before getting involved with anything else. I really kind of got to a point where I just said, the next thing for me, I have to just put my best foot forward, because actually it's really destructive. And I think mentally it was quite tough to carry that for, 10, 12, 15 or most part of my life.
Is it the like, again, I'm totally inquisitive here. No judgment.
Yeah.
I don't know how it feels. So is it the fear of what people say? Is it the fact that you're lying all the time? Like, what is, you say you're carrying it, and I completely get it, but I can't empathize. What is the feeling of what's going through your mind when you're, like I say, you're hiding it from everyone. You're having a relationship. You know who you are, but no one else does. Like, what's going through your mind at that point?
I think a mixture of emotions, honestly. I think there was quite lonely, if I'm honest, at the time. I think I think there's a combination of fear of acceptance, what will people say, not wanting to change actually a lot of the key people around you, and the fear of what they would say. So I think, again, a big part of it was, for sure, acceptance. I think it is massively quite lonely. I think going through that and having to lie and having to deal with that a lot of times, but also putting a bit of a mask on, right? So you come in and bold, confident Anthony. God, he's got everything. And people outside would be like, Jesus Christ, really? But actually masking over certain things and the emotion of it was just really quite tough. And I think it just come to a bit of a head where I just said to myself, there has to be a point where.
So did you put like a deadline in that new year of 2017? Did you put like a timeline in your head or anything of when you wanted to announce it, or how you?
I think, yeah, partly, but I think it just come to a point where it just had to happen at that right time. And I think I didn't really put a date on it, but I just said to myself, I have to, before I take any other decisions, work-wise, business-wise, or put my best foot forward. And I just can't no longer carry that feeling. And it's hard to identify what, put an emotion up in it, but I think it's a mixture of emotions of what that felt like. But
I think you moved jobs almost at the same time, though, didn't you? You took a
yeah,
new role.
I moved. Obviously, I left obviously Benquist, right, and I kind of started to go out into the marketplace and met with obviously a couple of our key competitors at the time, which great businesses, still good businesses to this day. But I think the reason that the massive part of the reason I took the job with Career Legal Stroke DVF was the inclusive part. And I think, when you get that feeling of, honestly,
did you tell the guy who was going to start up with you? Did you tell him from day one?
Not straight away, yeah, not straight away, because it didn't come up. But I quite quickly, I think quite quickly within, even before I started, or I think within the first week that I started, it definitely came up. But I think it was definitely a massive part of the decision making
process. Took a job that was still a startup, wasn't it? But within a group.
Yeah.
So instead of starting from scratch, you took a startup within a group with
it was about 15 months old, basically. Two guys kickstarted it, and they decided to go and set up, and it was probably hemorrhaging money for a good few months. Right. But yeah, so it was still at the early inception phase. But I think it was a weird one. When I interviewed and for Career Legal DVF, when I come out the lift, the bright spark that I found on the reception, it felt from the kind of second that I come out of the lift generally, and it might have been part of me, part of it, but just when I come out, I went across the floor. They had a really big open floor space. I mean, I've never seen so many female recruiters just as well. Honestly, it was mad. And I kind of said, wow, the business has been going 30 years, and it was a massive part of my decision-making process because it just felt inclusive from Michael Swaby, the board director that I've obviously interviewed with, just his whole openness generally, just from the outset, from the people that I've met when I walked across the floor, and it just felt right. And I think it was a massive red flag risk factor, right? Because it's a startup and going to the comfortable, opposition of Benquist to, go into a role that was really strong quite comfortably. But it just felt right. And I think, again, it really did feel quite inclusive. I think that also helped me just putting my best foot forward, to be honest. So it was a combination of the environment, but also getting to a point where I just have to kind of be Ant, really, and can't no longer just have this little mask that feels like it's in front of my face. And was
Court's the same? Had he not told anyone either?
No, before. So family not, and then work-wise was open. So I think, when you're in a relationship and someone is encouraging and supportive, I think it definitely plays a part to helping you be more comfortable and identify yourself in a better way. So definitely having that support system helped. I think before the coming out with work, I was open to quite a few good friends, and I felt that was, I mean,
how did you do it? They would literally just sit them down, or what was the problem?
What I'd done, I was on a friend's stag, and I could have ruined his stag, but it was one of my best friend's stags in Ibiza, and I decided to just drop a message before I go in, because I was going with Court, and I just said to myself, do you know what? It just feels right. So I dropped a bit of a message to pretty much the whole group that was on there. I think there was kind of 5 or 6 people on there. And actually probably going to Ibiza for that weekend was probably really great, because actually it was just, the boys that my friends, from school had nothing but, positive things to say. The love was there throughout. And I think, again,
did they already know, do you think?
Yeah, I think a couple was shocked, to be honest. And then a couple comes, we kind of had an idea, but then, we didn't really you're just Ant, right? So I think, some people to some degree, but I think it's a bit of a challenge sometimes, where I'm a bit of a lad's lad. And I think naturally people don't straight away kind of see you as gay. I think sometimes it's, probably a little bit more difficult, because you automatically kind of get put into the straight camp, if that makes sense. So, but no, they was really, really supportive. And again, I think when your kind of closest friends around you are kind of really supportive, it kind of gives you that next layer of kind of confidence to go again. And I think that obviously impacted and supported on the work side as well.
I'm interrupting this episode to bring a message from one of our sponsors, Vincere, who they're quite similar to Hoxo, I believe. What I love about Vincherry is I think we've got very similar visions on the way we do things. And, we do a lot of sharing about customer stories and its successes. And I think they've tried to really share why you should pick them as a business through their customers rather than just talking for the sake of talking. So what I've been checking out recently, if you go on their YouTube channel, type VINCERE on YouTube and have a look at what they've been doing, you'll notice that they've been sharing stories from their community on a weekly basis. And what's amazing about this is that the customers have been raving about things like ease of use, configurability, because look, we're not techies in recruitment, for fuck's sake. There's a reason we are in recruitment. It's because we're probably not the most technical minded in many senses. But Vincherry's tool actually is, it's configurable for most people. And they've got all these features now from, video interviewing, all these different areas that they're trying to bring in so that you don't really need to invest in other tech platforms. You can have a one-stop shop solution that will give you everything. But don't just take Vincherry's word for it. Watch their YouTube channel. Find out what their customers think. I've found it really interesting, and it's been awesome. So check out Vincherry on YouTube, and everything's on there. Well, I want to go backwards now.
Yeah.
So, when did you So, what age did you start to notice that you?
I think always to some degree, right? I think I was dating girls throughout school, after school. I was in quite a long 3.5 year relationship with a girl, but
Wow.
I think I always knew it was always there. I was always attracted to guys, but I think again, being I'm obviously from Southeast London, having quite not anyone. I mean, there's no one around me that was gay at the time, so no one in my family, no one. I mean, I grew up in a bit of a household where people was taking a piss out of, right? Gay people, if I'm honest. And I think, again, it's a lot of kind of knowledge, education. But yeah, I think for us, I knew from the youngest of ages that, that I was feeling, I had different feelings to everyone else. But again, I also found girls attractive at the time, going through school and out of school and stuff like that. So again, it was a real struggle to, who am I? I don't identify either here. What's going on and stuff. So that was mentally quite tough again, and just trying to navigate my way.
That's what I mean. The thought of having that on your head from even like childhood and teenage years. I mean, incredible, mate. Like to be able to cope with that.
Tough and dark, right? I did, I talk about it. I'm quite positive now and I'm upbeat about it, but at times really mentally quite tough. Going through school, your teens, and meeting lots of different people, navigating yourself into work and stuff, but always having a bit of a feeling where, God, I don't really fit in here, or I don't have the same feelings as your friends that are around you and stuff. And yeah, tough times mentally to go through. But again, I think always trying to push forward and not let that be the blocker of not wanting to be successful and stuff. So it did definitely get, and it has got pretty dark at times. And
I remember even you said your family, it was difficult with your mum, wasn't it, when you first?
Yeah, 100%. And I knew it would be. Bless my mum now. I mean, she's so much more open-minded, and I think definitely probably been the most blessing out of everything that I'll talk about today. Is my biggest fear was going into that conversation with my mum, and I knew how it was going to go because I just know my mum's like quite brash, emotional. I mean, she's if you think of Absolutely Fabulous, the old school series that used to be on TV, my mum was there as soon as I turned up on the phone trying to dial to get someone to give me advice to, you're not gay, the whole, everything you can imagine it being was played out in a 5 minute, 5 minutes.
Like go and speak to a doctor, basically.
Yeah, honestly, on the phone to dialing into an American number somewhere to say, you owe it to me to have this conversation. I said, I'll have the conversation, but it's not going to change. And I think I feared my brother the most, really, because I mean, my brother is quite a macho lad. And I mean, he was the best one out of the whole situation because he just said, Mum, you're mental. You would generally lose Anthony if you don't sort your shit out, basically. And I thank him to this day for that, really, because he's been amazing through the journey, to be honest.
He's very similar to. I mean, I've never even met Dan. I've just seen him on your Instagram, but I know people that you obviously. I know you well enough. But yeah, he's similar to you, isn't he? Though he's got that same sort of big personality, and his dance moves are incredible. But yeah, again, he's straight. He's got kids. He could have gone could have gone down the same route as your mum and been like, well, you know, but he didn't. And
no, and he was a massive advocate generally, and you know, even to this day, you know, we're best friends now. And I think he was the one generally that really kind of got my mum actually on board, and she just kind of, I think over time. But I think at the time, my mum was quite emotional, quite hot-headed. You know, around her, she doesn't have any, you know, so it's knowledge again, and it's, I think, you know, when you're growing up in South East London, a lot of the time you grow up to what you know and grandparents, and it's really ingrained in tradition and family. But
it's the same when I grew up. Most of the countries, like, you know, in the days we grew up in the 90s, it was, you know, gays people were different, and you know, no one in school. It's like the football league now, right? You've had the first player come out, and it will now be a spat. You've had 2 referees, and it's got to. I mean, it's fucking hell. I mean, the amount of men in playing sport who are not admitting it, it's nuts.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like what life was like in every environment, wasn't it? It was school, work. No one would, you know, you didn't meet many gay people. It doesn't mean that they exist. It just means they were. It's so sad, really, that the society we still live in. Don't get me wrong, it's not changed.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not ended, but it's getting better. It's got to.
It's improving. It's 100% improving. There's some real good success stories from it. But again, it's having these conversations, right? I think sometimes it is having some of those uncomfortable conversations where other people can look at it and actually take a little bit from it. I think social media's helped to some degree as well, because, you know, there's a lot more openness. There's definitely a lot more community, more than what there was when I have kind of been navigating my way through it. But so my brother's definitely played a good part to being quite a good driving force of making my mum feel quite different.
I think anyone who loves you genuinely, even if they do have the initial reaction like your mum, they'll get on board, right? I mean, I remember when me and Amar found out, and we were like, now it all makes sense, like. Because we were like, why would he go from the startup with us to staying and then moving and basically doing a startup somewhere else? Like, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But then I was like, imagine dealing with that as well as a complete startup in your underpants. Like, we would not have been sat in our underpants, but you get the point. But, you know, dealing with those two major things, because starting your own company is not, it's, you know, you got to pick the right time. It's not for 100%. Everyone.
And, you know, you've got to put 150% into it. But I think you've also got to put 150% of you. And, you know, and I think that was for me. And also letting myself down and letting you guys down. I think I just couldn't. It just wasn't right. And I think, you know, a big part of it was what I do next I have to be, and I have to truly, genuinely be 100% out, because you can't. I just couldn't carry it. So,
I'm really proud. Look, we were instantly proud of you. We had no, we were like, you know, we loved it. We loved the fact you were being yourself. Tell me what. We'll talk about work in a minute, because this is a big topic. But tell me about your life then. So let's go back to from 2017 onwards, when you became the true Anthony, and everyone found out about Courtney. And do you guys live together now, or have you lived together since? Right? So, you know, everything in your life suddenly becomes out in the open. What impact did that actually have on things like, you know, relationships, social events, all sorts? Like, what changed?
I just think it's so weird, right? Because I think not much has changed. I've still got the same group of friends. I've been the same friends since I've been in school. They still, you know, we still take the piss out of each other a lot of the time and stuff like that. But actually, I think what just, you know, you go to a lot more things, right? You're just a lot more. You kind of just go. I generally feel like now, and people say I lit up a room before, but I didn't feel like I lit up a room before. But I feel generally now I'm not holding back anything. I'm really quite open. If I'm invited to stuff, there's often a lot of yeses, where before there was a lot of no's for whatever reason. I'd sometimes make up reasons, right? And I think now it's just, not much has changed in terms of day-to-day life. But I think the people I've got around me are still the same. But actually, they've definitely seen a better version of me. And I quite often sit there and say, God, you know, so I feel I'm definitely a lot more confident. I feel so much more open to just listening, hearing, talking about stuff. I'm a lot more of a yes man to go and do things and tick a lot more boxes now, which is good. And not separating people, conversations, you know, work from home life, and, you know, where you before kind of always navigating, keeping things separate.
Well, mate, I remember, like, I lived 5 minutes.
You used to say to me a lot of time, didn't you? I remember.
I'd be like, let me come round and see you. You lived in Beckenham, I was in about 5 minutes. Let me come round. Oh, you always had an excuse. I never got to your house once, because and I didn't know anyone around it. So I was like, mate, you'd be like, I'm sorry, but I need to go and do this, I need to go and do that. And I was like, he's never fucking in this, lad. But the truth is, you obviously lived with him, or he'd be there, and you didn't want it. I get it now, and it's like, feel so sad that you had to go through that, but it's great that you've come out the other side. And what was it like integrating within the LGBTQ community? Like going from not, I suppose, hiding it to then being open?
Yeah, I think, do you know what's been quite good? I've had a good friend that I've probably had for 18 years. That's a little bit older than me, but actually has integrated me to meet new people. And I've got still quite small, but actually just some great guys that I've learned a hell of a lot as well. So going from being a pretty, hanging around mostly straight people for most part of my life, which is still a big part of life, which is great. But actually now having really good people that are probably the next layer of the journey in front of me, but really so open and actually kind of bring me involved in other different things that are going on. They take me to different places where you meet more people and stuff like that. So again, and it's only just ever felt massively inclusive. I think I'm still on the journey. I think I'm still navigating my way. I genuinely, it feels like kind of 5, 6, 7 years, but I'm still day to day opening up to different things. I'm hearing about more things within the community that I definitely had no clue about. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm actually excited to be part of following that path, if that makes sense, and going down there and just opening up to different things. And there's so much interesting stuff out there. There's so many business leaders, business owners as well, and I'm kind of taken back by it, but actually just embracing every part of it really, which is good.
Amazing. And so let's go back to then taking on the job. Your life's open. Let's talk me through the DVF journey. So when you started, what was the situation in the business?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to obviously when I took to DVF and it got started, 2 guys kick-started it, but it was
Are they still there? And are they still there? No.
Yeah, no. So they left, and they've had a couple of guys, leaders driving the business that didn't work out. And when I come on board, Michael Sway was quite open and honest to sit there and say the state of the business, this is what the challenge looks like. And I was thinking, oh God, I can't do this on my own. And at the time, obviously, Hayley Charles, I got into Venquis. I thought I can go and maybe knock on her doors and Dominique and see if they'll join me. Yeah. And lucky enough that I kind of got them into a room and they believed in the vision and what I wanted to go and do. But
what's DVF stand for? Is it a name?
So DVF, so DVF's a formula. It's not anyone's surname or dodgy initials or anything like that, but it's a formula for change. So D is is an actual formula for change. So D is being dissatisfied with something. V is the vision of wanting to change it, and then F is the future steps you put in place to make the change happen. So it's a fairly recognised change formula in the marketplace. So, but it does make sense, right? If you want to get a new partner, you're dissatisfied with them. You look at what the next could look like, and then the future steps to get them out. I don't use that analogy when I'm winning clients or anything.
I've been there. I've been there in a relationship. Luckily, I've not had that with Amar yet. We're still in the
Amar's safe for now.
Yeah, we're in a good position. Do you know what? It's been mad. Just so like since I think the dynamic between the three of us would have been like we would have done an amazing job. I know we would have because I worked with you and I worked with him and you worked together. It would have been fine. But I think so what happened is we actually brought a different partner in, didn't we, when we started the marketing business?
Yeah.
Mark, a guy I grew up with who was a personal friend from school. And that was so
Jake, right? Was it Jake?
No, Mark.
Oh, Mark.
So Jake's my brother, right? We did, and he was with us for a couple of years, but it just didn't work. Like the dynamic with Mark was he'd not worked in London. He hadn't worked in recruitment. He obviously was in marketing, which is what we needed, but I don't think the working relationships that we had, he didn't get it. It's not that he didn't get it, but he was coming at it from there. We were coming at it from there. And it got to a point where we were like, we're no longer friends if we don't exit this. So he left in 2019 and then me and Amar have took the business on from there. And it is mad. Like we've genuinely never had an argument. We've never had a bad word to say. Like we've made mistakes and there might be times where I'm, I actually don't think there's been times where I've gone, I wish he hadn't done that. Or it just feels like
there is people and partnerships that you have. And I think similar to Hayley, I kind of echo this. I mean, we've never had a crossword, right? And that's friendship and then building a business, right? Building a business, bare bones from the ground upwards with, not massively support from a technology, marketing, finance, literally going out, roll your sleeves up on your own. and we've had, honestly, probably the most incredible journey building it together, where we are today, but actually never had a crossword, honestly, which, so I do think, you kind of sit there and surprised by it, but it's, yeah, you guys have done phenomenal, and I'm super proud of everything you're doing, and it's growing and building, and it's exciting to see how both of our journeys have gone, really.
Yeah, for sure. So you got Haley and Dom in, and
Yeah.
I work with them both, right? So perm and contract, and you went change and transformation, same sort of roles we recruited, BAs, PM, developers, tech roles. How's that like 5 years? Has it been a complete linear like growth path, or have you had ups?
Yeah, I mean, definitely ups and downs, some really fantastic hires, some hires you kind of look back and I think all great, being able to build a business without having to financially use, your money is, a bit of a blessing in disguise, really, because you're able to kind of make mistakes, probably rush too quickly out the traps and, run before you can walk. But I think, being able to not only build a business, but build a business with, one of your best friends, and, which is amazing. And I think we've definitely grown year on year, which is fantastic. And I think we haven't massively been impacted even with COVID, which I think is, shows part of, how successful the people that we've got in. I think clients have been significantly loyal. So a lot of the clients have stuck with us, give us significant amount of work, in a market where a lot of the taps got turned off. So I think really goes to show how well we've partnered with these businesses. But actually what we have also done, I think probably the last couple of years, is the team's phenomenal. And I think building anyone that I do meet, generally, I'll do echo this. Sometimes I feel like I'm bored when I say that. I always say to people coming through, you'll have the right tools. I'll give you all the tools to do the job, but I'd never want to change who you are. And I want you to come out of that lift and be fully 100% who you are. Because I think when you can really do that and build a team from different backgrounds, walks of life, if you can really truly do that, the dynamic that you do get, if you can make it as collaborative as possible, is really, really powerful. And I think that's probably been why DVF's massively catapulted. It's not just me, I'm part of it, Haley's part of it, but actually it's the people that we've got. But definitely bumps in the road, lots of lessons learned with hiring, trying to not build too quickly. But
Did you have any pressure? Because you obviously, the benefit of someone else's money is you can make mistakes, but the other side is it's not you're burning someone's cash, right?
Yeah.
I know, Charlie is what you call him, right? So,
yeah.
Charlie, have you ever felt like there's someone else?
I think there was pressure from day one, right? I think there was pressure from day one because I think the business was in a place where a few people had a crack at it and it wasn't working, and it was a business that was costing. So I think as soon as you come through the door, there's all eyes on everyone sitting on DVF, because I think from the wider business, it's kind of, this business is, it's on fire. What's going on here? So I think there was definitely pressure from absolute day one, but actually distracting yourself from that and understanding what we're here to do, what we're here to build, how we're going to build it, who's taken what role, and actually just not kind of getting caught up in, it's a long game, right? And we're here to build a business. It's not about getting one deal over the line. It's actually building a business where we can get significant business after that is, but I think it was, navigating that, but being able to navigate that pressure with not having to hide who I am internally was pretty easy, to be honest. There was definitely pressure from
how did the openness of your personal life, how did that impact your ability to do the job?
I think significantly. I just think bringing ideas to the table. It's hard to kind of. I was kind of sitting there last night saying, how do you really pinpoint that? But I think being able to come in and truly not having to hide who you are, and getting your suit on every day and leaving the house having to feel like that feeling going away, and being able to kind of come into work. I
guess it's just like having a bit of a blockage, isn't it? Even though
it's a bit more
you can only think so much because you've always got that there. Whereas when you remove it, your capacity just goes up.
Completely right. And I think that part of your brain and capacity is taken up by other stuff that isn't work, right?
So thinking about who's gonna find out, what do I need to cover up, what do I need to
yeah. And that from bringing ideas, driving things forward, being open, communicating, collaboration, it impacts on the whole lot. And I think
But you still nailed it though. You still nailed 300-400 grand, whatever, like 300-400 grand years with that pressure. So with that on your head. So it must
and I
have been
think again,
like,
taking that and again pulling that layer back, again, generally has really catapulted everything around what we're still building, we're still learning, we're still growing. But actually, when you could truly go into somewhere when you are a bit of a force to be reckoned with anyway, and not have that uncomfortable feeling, honestly, it's where it can be so rewarding. But I think lessons learned as well. And I think sometimes I fall into the traps of, the stereotypes and, and it's trying to leave behind some of the things that actually you want to leave behind and actually build a business where you want it to be inclusive, because it isn't just about Anne, it isn't just about Hayley, it is about the successes, the teams and the growth and how we can collaborate, how we communicate, but also the people that we're hiring. And I think there's still a long way to go.
What type of people are you hiring? Because you were always like me, we always hired like maybe people who'd had a bit of a journey in life.
Honestly, that's the best part of it, right?
Yeah.
The journey and different backgrounds. But I mean, I've got a guy, ex-monk, Harry Krishna. I love him to pieces. I won't mind me shouting him out. He'd probably be quite excited. AJ, wow. He was a monk. And I think, again, having a team where you just hear different stories and listen. I think historically I've done a lot of talking because I was masking over things, whereas I'd probably say the last 5 years, 7 years, there's a lot more listening and bringing openness, listening to ideas and soaking that up and understanding I've got a way to do things and there's a vision, but actually let's change things, mix things up if we have to, change the dynamics of what we're doing and really just be quite open to hearing and listening to a lot of other people's ideas. And that doesn't have to come from 5, 7, 10 years of recruitment experience. I get most of my ideas and I'm inspired by most of the guys that are sitting on the team with me. And I think it's not being afraid to change things if you have to.
Our second sponsor is always District 4. District 4 have worked with me or been a partner to this show for a long time. And they are designing a business that effectively wants to give recruiters their time back and also allow them to start a business. So do you want to have more time? Do you want to build more money? Do you want to spend more time with family? Do you want longer weekends? Well, all of D4's members have found that. They don't have meetings and commuting and all the unnecessary shite that a lot of recruitment businesses put their teams through, especially when they start and they think they have to keep all of the structure that they've had before. Sometimes for people like you, and I'm a bit like that. I like to wake up and just know I can control my destiny on a given day. And District 4 allows you to do that. So if you're somebody who wants to start a recruitment business or has already started and is struggling to scale in the way that you want to, not the traditional way, then get in touch via www.district4.io/Hoxo. Check out what they can do. How did the community, that candidates and clients react? Because I think you posted about a year ago, but did you start telling people on the phone in meetings? Like how did it trickle into your?
I don't know. I've never really kind of put a banner. Because I don't think that's just me anyway, right? I think I always want to just kind of, if it comes up in conversation, I'm just quite open about it. But anyone that I've ever told, I think when I posted that quite open post last year, the amount of people that reached out that I may have worked with, placed before, haven't spoken to for a few years. It was incredible. It was quite overwhelming actually, and I think quite emotional just to hear so much quite nice comments from people generally. And I think again, posted a status only the other day, again, just people that have reached out and stuff. So yeah, candidates, clients, and it's nothing been but positive, which is great. And actually I think it's made some of those partnerships even stronger. But I think I'm also still learning to deal with the conversation when it comes up at the right point. So there's no means now I've been out for 5 years. I've got it all right. I'm still learning to this day. Sometimes I still kick myself when I come out of a meeting room and the conversations come up and I didn't deal with that in the right way. So I don't think it's
like what give me an example of what would have happened.
I think where I've gone to a client meeting potentially where they're all talking about their children, their makeup, their background, and maybe at that time I've kind of not chipped in and added my weight and spoken a bit more about me. So I think again, it's
not that they were like
certain people have been really open with, and
not that they weren't homophobic or anything.
No, far from it. I think it's me. It's internally, it's me. So it's definitely not them. I think it's also me still navigating, just being comfortable with the uncomfortable in my own way and own skin. But yeah, it's only been ever nothing but positive, and I think I'm definitely still each day learning and going through that process and becoming more confident with it. I think, again, I think some people feel like you come out, there's this big banner that you come out, you walk down the street, you got the flag with you, and it's a marching band behind you, and away you go. It's far from that. I think everyone deals with that process in a really different way, and every way is right, and I think it's just, for me, it's
are right. It's not like, you don't just meet people with a badge on saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm gay."
No,
it's
yeah.
it's always gonna be a topic that either you've got to bring up or it's gonna stumble. You're gonna stumble. Like they're gonna say, like, you're married or whatever, and then you'll be like, "Have you got
Yeah.
kids?" And then it'll be like,
Oh, as always, you got kids. I mean, I get
yeah.
it. You get it all the time. You
So
got
if
children.
if I'm a client, I go, "Have you got kids yourself?" How do you respond? What do you say?
No, so I haven't. I've got nephews.
Would you
No.
then say, "No, I'm gay. I don't have kids"? Oh,
No,
what would you? No.
again, it's a different, right? I think definitely it has come up where I said, yeah, I am gay. And there's definitely when I've come up and just said, no, I haven't yet. Maybe one day. So different, really. But again, it's kind of when you do come out and you're quite open. It's not you
No.
push a button and everything all changes, right? It's then that kind of next stage of when you do come out, then it's a kind of process, right? And it's learning, it's understanding, it's being more confident. This today is probably the most thing that I've probably never wanted to. I wouldn't dream of doing, right? But again, kind of we've had conversations about it, and kind of 5 years on now, I'm thinking, actually, do you know
I've
what?
had this podcast for 3 years, so it took me a
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
But
So
it's in
it's a
your own time.
process.
I think what you've hopefully learned, and I'm sure there's bad stories and negatives, and no one can quote me, but I hope most people you do open up to, you will be surprised by their response, like the fact that
Yeah,
they're very,
definitely.
they support you. Like, most people I believe are good. Most
Yeah,
people want to see the good in people, and I look at life like it doesn't affect me. Like, you do whatever
yeah,
you want. I don't like. I do what I want. You do what you want. As long as we're good to each other, like, who cares?
yeah,
If
100%.
anything, I'm interested. I'm genuinely intrigued by it. Like,
Yeah,
and
and it has been that, and I think there's quite a few people that have told that actually has really helped them educate themselves, right?
mm,
And I think it's if they haven't thought about it, they know about it. They've asked me the most randomest questions, but actually, do you know what? It is
well,
learning and it is
that was what I
process.
wanted to ask you then. So let's say a lot of the people listening are going to be recruiters, ideally recruitment owners, right?
Yeah,
Who might, I wouldn't say they're going to be gay themselves or homosexual in any way, but they're probably going to have staff that they don't even know about.
mm,
So how do they create an environment where their teams can
mm,
open up? Because you felt for a long time you couldn't. In
yeah,
fact, you moved jobs multiple times to the point where you found an environment and it felt good. It's not like those companies were bad. We had some, great times, but something wasn't there for you
yeah,
to feel
definitely,
safe. So what
definitely.
what could I do at Hoxo? What could other business owners
Mhm.
do to
I think
make
there's, I
their
think there's,
business
a, I
feel
think
like
there's
safe?
a lot of things you can do, and I think it starts by internally, having a bit of a committee, right? If you've got it's not, and then we take LGBTQ one part, but diversity inclusion. Let's look at it as a key topic. I think it's having internally, a bit of a committee where you've got real ambassadors in the organisation. Because I think building an inclusive environment is what the key driver is, and how you build that. So it's not about the post and post and the marketing piece is one part, right? But actually how you can build an inclusive team internally. I think it starts with having openness. I think it starts with who's part of the recruitment process when you are hiring, and that
But
has to be.
can you ask people these things? You can't, can you? You can't say in an
Well,
interview, like, "Are you gay?" Like, you
no,
can't
no,
ask
no.
them.
But I mean, it's who's interviewing, right? So who's part of that interview process? How inclusive are the
Yeah.
people that are interviewing that's bringing people through the door? How are you attracting the talent that comes through the door? Where are you going to get these individuals from? That's part, obviously, the recruitment one part. Internally as an organization, do you have leaders, ambassadors, a committee, community internally that have got people that they can go to, that they can feel comfortable? And that just doesn't have to be salespeople. I think that has to be people across the organization, take HR aside essentially, and have a community where people can feel safe. Again, career legal stroke DVF is We've got ambassadors across the whole company that look at everything from race, age, neurodiversity, where they've got real allies that you can go to at any point of the day that actually is inclusive across the organization. There's regular things that happen in month on month, week on week. There's training. So I think there's not kind of, again, a button that you tick and it's how can we be inclusive, but there's so much that you can do as a business to really create an open environment for people to come through. And it's not about, like you said, it's not about asking people when they come through and asking the questions, but it's being able to create an environment where people feel open, that they can, they can be themselves.
I think what I'm getting from this, and what I've learned in the last few years through my own journey of I've got a coach, right? And I think judgment is the word that probably, because I'd say our relationship was very open. Like, you knew fucking everything about my relationship with Fids and the family, and like, we knew that. But I'm not sure I probably gave you enough of the feeling that I wouldn't judge. Like, maybe some of the things I said about others in your presence, but as I'd pinpoint my own behavior and say, well, I've not always been perfect. Probably heard things that made you think, well, maybe he's not gonna be. I don't know. I can't go back to a scenario.
You got to think also sometimes, recruitment industries. If you look, I've been in recruitment 12 years, where I've learned how you train. The floor historically has been quite macho and male. Not always male dominated, but quite macho. Yeah, and I think it's just really understanding some of those. Banter's great. I mean, I'm probably the first to be, massively fun on the front foot with it, but I think it's also just being quite sensitive around some of that and tackling some of those conversations, because it actually can sometimes be quite uncomfortable to be able to, and that's me, who has felt quite confident at times. So again, it's really just understanding that's never going to change as an industry, but actually, are the teams inclusive? Is your hiring inclusive? What is the teams made up of? And I think it's being able to sometimes break down some of those barriers. And actually, I think a lot of it does come down to how inclusive you are in your team and how inclusive you are as a company.
I think the challenge is, though, it's I don't know. I'm just thinking about it I don't know. I still don't really fully know what inclusive means. Like, so for example, I've got a really diverse team. I've got in my direct internal team, I've got a couple of people in Pretoria in South Africa. I've got a guy in Portugal. I've got one in Cape Town, one in Portugal, one in Lake District, one in Chesterfield. I'm in Sheffield. We've got a girl in Barbados. We've got people all over, and we're trying to be inclusive. Like, we're trying to have regular communication, regular conversations, find out how people feel. We have a people manager who talks to everyone and asks them, like, tries to understand.
Do you have a D&I agenda in terms of?
Absolutely not right now.
So
which is something that,
having a plan for, for the year. What are the key things throughout the year? What are the months that are really quite important? And actually having and again, everyone has their day jobs, right? A lot of recruiters are busy billing, and that tends to be what takes up the time. Like, when you're talking about marketing, but actually having a committee, like you said, where you have a full agenda for the year, you start to plan stuff, you start to create, mini events internally and stuff. And it's great having a really diverse team top down, who's on the management team, who's your decision-making process at the board level. And I think, again, Career Legal DVF is 70% females. Most of the good females are working mum. Again, I'm talking about D&I as, being in the bracket, not just, LGBTQ, but it's taken serious. I think it's having a real plan, structure, and it becomes a thing where it's not just sometimes about, getting some people through the door. We've got a really great people person, but actually who's part of the decision-making process. And top down, it's really consistent. There's regular communication, but there's also a bit of a plan behind what you're doing.
We're looking at that right now, which is an annual events calendar, and that covers everything from social to understanding what's going on. And we're looking at that right now. And we've got a people manager who's brilliant. She's looking at, her job is to ensure that the happiness of our staff is ultimately there, like increasing, and the satisfaction. This is something we need.
I think it's also just being open to really communicating regularly how open you are to change and hear from people, doing, regular surveys, every quarter or every 6 months, get all the staff to just be quite open. It can be confidential. Because again, sometimes, if someone's quite new to the business, do they want to speak up, come up with ideas and stuff? Whereas if they can feel like it is quite confidential, and actually if they can bring new ideas to the table, they're going to get listened to. It's a follow-up process to make sure that is communicated and stuff like that. So again, it's not there's not a button to kind of switch on, switch off, but actually there's a lot of things that you can be doing, which kind of drives you culturally in the right direction. And I think again, there's a lot of work everyone needs to be doing. And certainly,
what do you see in the client base you're working with? Like, is it more in the bigger companies? Is it more advanced?
It's interesting, right? And I've been having these conversations very much heavily quite this year. And I think there's been, for the last 3-4 years, there's been loads of, talk, lots of branding and lots of board level discussions where it needs to be a priority, and one of the top priorities, probably one of the top 3 priorities as an organization. And I think there's been loads of active conversations, which is definitely the right start. I think the challenge, what you've had is, the numbers haven't changed, and I think across the marketplace, there's been some good successes, but I think across the board, there hasn't been significant change in terms of actually bringing diverse individuals into the organization.
The problem with insurance used to be that they wouldn't hire from outside of insurance. No, never mind like ethnicity. It was like you had to have worked in the competitor. So if you don't allow, you basically can only look at the grad schemes, because everything else is just playing musical chairs with the same people. And do you see that the grad schemes looking more inclusive?
But also, again, it's not just grad schemes, right? I went as apprenticeship. It was the best thing I've ever done. And, again, it's the stigma of you go down a grad scheme. Why? If you really want
what I mean is the entry, whatever route you go down. But surely certain sectors, they're so insular in the fact that they don't let people in from other sectors. The only way they've got is the entry level.
Yeah, it's definitely changing. If you look at, the last 5 years, there's definitely been some real good improvements to move forward. But again, there's still a lot of firms that are way off the mark, still exactly where they were when we was, 7-8 years ago. So I think there's definitely some real improvements. There's definitely a lot of noise. I think across the whole marketplace, there's a lot of noise. But it's actually also how they can, the next layer is how we are significantly improving those percentages and numbers in the organization, but also, great. It's I won't say names, but it's kind of clients. I'll get me a female. Tick the box. It's kind of.
When they say
no, they generally do.
As much as you can't say I want a white male, can you say get me a female or someone of different ethnicity? Are you seeing the positive or the discrimination the other way?
Completely. That's the right.
Don't want a white male. Can people say that now?
But that's the challenge. It's being said, but also that is, that's not really part. Do you know what I mean? That's not part of what you're trying to achieve. So there's definitely some improvements that are being made, and there's still a long way to go. But it's working with, not just about hiring, but actually when people join, how inclusive do they feel once they join? Are they getting supported? Do they have a mentor? Are they quite open to ideas? Do they get brought to the table and stuff like that? So one part is obviously bringing people into the organization. The kind of next layer is that when they do join, who's kind of helping them on that journey to make sure that they have the best experience when they join afterwards. So there's a lot more work being done, which I think is great. And there's some really good organizations that are really, leading from the front and flying the flag. I think that just the challenge at the moment is turning that into valuable results where actually the numbers are increasing and changing across the board. And I think that's the challenge. And I think not just from insurance and legal, even if you look at sales and recruitment businesses, there's some great firms doing some good stuff, but actually there's still a lot more work to be done.
I'm looking at my own business thing, and we're making some decent progress. We've had challenges even this year with the people agenda. We're not perfect at it, and we're trying, right? And
but that's the most successful, is that you're trying and you're open to trying, right? And you're open.
I'm genuinely interested in it. That's the truth. Some people just clearly don't care, but I know and believe that we do, which is the key. But we still at times you make business decisions that people aren't happy with, and maybe aren't perfect for some people, and at other times you have to make decisions for people that maybe don't always suit the business, and it's a tricky one. So to wrap things up, what's the future look like? But firstly, I want to talk about the business. Like, where are you going? Because I know you joined this business with a mission. Like, what's the future for DVF, Career Legal, the whole piece?
So yeah, still driving the businesses forward. They're growing. I mean, the great thing about, obviously, I think when we met a few years back, there was probably quite separate businesses. I think what we've really done quite well now is really, Career Legals, and DVF are one business, and I think really worked hard to bring those businesses together. What the future holds, I have to keep quite close to my chest, but it'd be interesting to see where they go. But actually, the business is doing phenomenal at the moment. There's
how do you guys work now? Because you're at home today.
Yeah,
you were always a 5-day-a-week
fully hybrid model. So I think since we was fully from home, and the business has done significantly well. I mean, done really well. So it makes no sense now to start to change things significantly to get people back in. So we do hybrid model where 2 to 3 days a week you come in the office, pick your days, however you want to do it. And I think it's working really well where when you get in the office, you get the quick wins of throwing the names. And I think the challenge sometimes with being, lots of time working from home, sometimes you're missing those little snippets of information that do work and, get you quick results, which is great. So actually we've got the best of both worlds at the moment, and it's really working quite well. But again, change things, right? I think if one of the guys wants to do something slightly different, travels from further and wants to do a little more regular, just be open to it and not have a policy where this is so rigid.
How many days are you in London now?
So I do 3 because I like to kind of get in, get out, and I'm probably a little bit more productive in an office seeing people.
Certain days you do? Or?
Yeah, I typically do kind of Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, or I mix up the days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So yeah, just dependent on meetings.
Courts in estate agency still?
Yeah, estate agency hasn't changed, is it? I mean,
I imagine they have to be in. They have to.
Yeah, their whole job is kind of getting in, doing viewings, right? So you have to see people, and I don't think that industry. So yeah, throughout COVID and the whole probably pandemic and stuff, we're pretty much back in. It's probably one of the industries that was the first back in, and having to be back in outside of kind of nursing and stuff like that. So but yeah, no, I do like to still go in. I like to see people. I like to have that routine of still getting up and out of the house. But then at the same time, the days I'm home, I get so much done.
Are you billing anymore? Do you still do?
Yeah, that won't change. I mean, I think I appreciate a lot of the bigger recruitment organizations have a model where you've got to be a leader and build and stuff. But I mean, that don't change. I still build. I've still led from the front. I think a lot of the youngsters that are coming through, they don't want to hear the story of the 1990s or 2000. I think they get inspired by you leading from the front, rolling your sleeves up and getting stuck in. So yeah, I've got a big team. I've got some great managers, and actually I still build, lead from the front, and I actually enjoy it. I mean, I love being able to actually inspire and help people take them on that journey where they can see it, feel it, we do it together, and actually really leading from the front. And I think, businesses miss a bit of a trick where their model is kind of you move up to manager, then you're a team leader and you're kind of more hands off, where I think if you kind of flip it on its head and really truly kind of lead from the front where they can see it, feel it. And I think it's kind of phenomenal.
You just like doing deals, mate. Are you kidding?
Oh, I love doing deals. I mean, who doesn't have that freedom?
Your brother's name was Dan the Deal on Instagram, right? Dan the Deal.
He's going to love this, by the way.
Dan the Deal and Ant the Deal. The Deal. I love it. So what's life like personally then? So would you want to have kids?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you know, it's kind of a future. You never know really, but I think I'm at a time where I'm still kind of going through the motions of, becoming who I am. And I think it's still kind of, still work in progress, and, what the future holds, I've still not decided on, but I'm just loving life at the moment and kind of enjoying each day and each month as it comes by. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's true.
And you're off to Miami in a few weeks?
Off to Miami in a few weeks. I'm going south of France in a few more weeks after that. So, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Well, I mean, my life and your life are the similarities and there's key differences, right? I ended up back in the north, 2 stepkids.
I love it though.
Just bought a house.
2 guard dogs.
2 guard dogs who are right behind me right now. I mean, it's mad. I mean, I think going into kids, you got to know you want them, I think. And I think I always said I wanted them. I don't think I ever imagined. The mad thing for me was I didn't imagine taking another person's kids on, but it is exactly the route that I went. So my mum, so the way I was with Lauren before she was with the father of her children, right? We were together when we were young and we got back together last year. But my mum and stepdad were they're not even married. My mum and I call him a stepdad. They were the same. They were together when they were young. Then my mum and dad had kids, and then they got back together. And then so he came into my life at the age that these kids are with me. Yeah. So I've been the kid in the scenario. So I think even when before I'd met them last year, I could imagine how it'd work because I've seen it. I think if I'd have, my mum and my dad together raised me, I'm not sure I could have done this as well as I mean, again, I'm not done it well. I'm nowhere near doing it well. It's so difficult. But I guess with you, if you do go down the kids route, it's going to be an interesting, you're going to go through different scenarios and it's going to,
100%.
you're going to have some challenges there. But I love that there's more gay relationships, men having babies.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just, I've got a friend of mine that's gone through that whole process, adoption, and it's really refreshing to see and just understanding the journey and going through that whole process and stuff like that. So yeah, I've not figured it out yet for sure, but there's definitely more to come, more to see. We'll do a part 2 in a few years.
Oh, we're definitely, we've got to want it though.
Reunion.
My thing about kids I've learned is you just genuinely got to want it. I think if too many people I think they have to have kids, and it's like they have to have them, or else they're not going to be happy. And I think, I've seen so many people who've had kids and not probably thought about it, and they're not, they love their children, but they're like, I wish I'd not done it.
Yeah, we've got to a point in age where I need to have them because
because of biology, and for me now, I feel like I'm at a point in my life where it's what I want. Whereas if you'd have threw kids at me 5 years ago, it just wouldn't have worked. Like, it just wouldn't have worked.
It's exciting.
Anthony, pleasure, mate. I've loved it. It's always fun with you anyway. And I'm just so proud of you. I think it's been, everything happens for a reason. I think it was all supposed to play out this way. 100 times out of 100, it would have played out this way. I'm really grateful of your input in the Hoxo story. And I'm glad that we told it because not many people know.
At least we got the name right. At least we got the name right at the end.
Got the name. It's there. Look, it's tattooed right there. You see, it's all there.
Coming out. But no, listen. I'm also. It's so nice generally to see how much the business has grown and how much you guys have put into it and what's come out of it again. And it's not just you being proud of me. I'm massively proud of what you guys are doing. And I love to see the journey, and it's exciting to see where we're going to be in the next 5 years. Right.
Exactly, mate. Let's do it. Right. If anyone does want to reach out, because I think there'll be people that want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Are you okay if they just message you on LinkedIn? Is that
fine?
LinkedIn,
honestly, really open to ideas, suggestions. I mean, it's kind of, again, it's being open to just hearing and talking about things, right? So yeah, always open.
And I imagine you're hiring as well if anyone is interested listening.
Always hiring, looking for some good talent. If you're weird and wonderful, get in touch.
Weird and wonderful. Love it. Right, Anthony, you're an absolute legend. Good luck with everything, and we'll get you back on in the future, all right? Cheers, buddy.
Mate. Take care, mate.
Thank you, as always, for listening to today's show. I truly, truly hope that you got value from it. That's the only reason I take time every week, is to ensure that my audience, future and existing recruitment owners, are learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. Today's episode was brought to you by Hoxo Media. I am the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media, and we are the world's leading content marketing and personal branding agency for recruitment businesses specifically. So we are working with over 200 agencies and 2,000 recruiters right now, both managing the brands, producing content, building written, video, podcast content for niche recruitment agencies all over the world, as well as coaching at a desk level individual recruiters in your businesses how to be better on LinkedIn. That's how to brand themselves. That's how to produce content. That's how to use the opportunity on LinkedIn to get traffic to their profiles and turn that into business. We're coaching people all over the world every single day. If any of that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean Anderson, a personal message on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. Tune in again next week on LinkedIn. I'll see you soon.